Hello there. Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 8 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want. Specifically, how to use my life from the top of the mind philosophy to bring more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. Today I want to talk about the difference between being defensive and defending ourselves. I think often we find ourselves in a situation where we are defending ourselves. Somebody has said something about us that is untrue or has accused us of something. We find ourselves kind of defending ourselves. I think in that situation we are also being somewhat defensive. We feel attacked, we feel wrongly accused, and what we need to understand about the brain is whenever that happens, that actually sends us to this lower 20% of the brain, dealing with the situation as if we're being physically attacked. This middle brain, limbic system, doesn't know the difference between a negative or dangerous event, and it has a tendency to interpret any situation, any attack, verbal or otherwise, as something we need to deal with from a fight or flight perspective. And so we go, well, I can't believe you said that. I would never, blah, 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 blah. But we start kind of defending ourselves in a way that's very defensive. Understandable, but have you noticed that when we do that, people don't go, oh, well, my goodness gracious, I must have misunderstood. Thank you for sharing. I feel so much better. No, they often attack our defense. In other words, they don't hear our defending ourselves, and certainly our being defensive, as valuable information. They almost see it as confirmation of what they're accusing us of. Hey, well, if it wasn't true, they wouldn't be reacting like that. So I think what we've got to do is get really clear. Okay, whenever we're accused of something that is really not who we are, something we know we didn't do, something that's outside of our character, number one, how do we want to respond? And number two, what's the difference between defending ourselves and being defensive? Defending ourselves, to me, is a situation where people have asked for data. There is some situation out there that they have a concern about, and they've come to us and say, hey, I've got this concern. I'd love for you to put some data together and let me know what you think about this. Kind of people are thinking this, and I'd love for you to give me some data that backs that up. In other words, they're asking for our defense. In that particular situation, we can come up with character references or data or whatever it is they need to really defend our position because they are open to that information. They're actually asking for that information. Sometimes there's a policy or a procedure in an organization where if you're accused of something or not given the rating you want, there's a policy and procedure where you can go through and defend that and speak to that and in many ways influence that. In that situation, defending ourselves, I think, is a really good idea. Number one, we're coming from this clear, confident, creative part of who we are, not the defensive part of who we are. And again, people have asked for the data. Almost the rest of the time when people are accusing us of something and we try to start defending ourselves, we are actually being defensive. And while that's understandable, it's not serving us. We're not thinking clearly. We're not saying the things that are really valuable to our cause. They're not hearing it as valuable information. And therefore, it doesn't really serve us. One of the things I like to do whenever I'm accused of doing something or being a certain way that's outside of my character, I like to question the accuser in a way where they might rethink the accusation. I like to say, is that really congruent with who you know me to be? Or does that really fit with who you know me to be? Now notice there, you're not being defensive, you're being curious. And what that does is it gives the accuser an opportunity to rethink the accusation. Now, when you ask that question, you got to be willing to kind of let some silence happen after that. Because when people are generally accusing you of something, they're often in that lower brain themselves. And when you ask them what I call a top-of-the-mind question, a question that encourages them to think back about your character and apply that to the situation, it's going to take a moment for them to shift from this lower brain to the upper brain. So you kind of wait until they either say yes or no. If they say no, I would thank them for that. Say, okay, well, I understand there is a problem here. Let's see if we can kind of correct this misunderstanding. But they've already told you this is incongruent with who they know you to be, so it's no longer really an accusation about you. It's just some data that needs clarification. If they say yes, this is congruent with who they know you to be, you want to get more curious about that. So what I would encourage you to say is, oh, okay, so what have you seen me do that has given you the impression that I'm that kind of person? See, chances are if they do believe that whatever they're accusing you of is congruent with who they know you to be, it's based on some sort of experience in the past where they've seen you be a certain way. Well, the last week when I saw you da-da-da-da, you did this and did that, and you can go, oh, okay, well that makes sense. I can see how you would draw that conclusion. Would you like to know what I was really thinking? See, again, you're not defending, you're being curious. You're using questions to begin to get at the problem. The problem is their misperception, this misunderstanding of who you are. But if you try to defend who you are, they don't take that as good information. So I think what we've got to do whenever we're in a relationship or a professional situation or a family, we've got to ask ourselves the question, okay, am I defending or am I being defensive? Or am I defending in a way that's being defensive? Are they asking for this information? Are they open to this information? The answer is no, we don't want to try to defend our position. They'll just attack our defense. So what we want to do instead is to get really curious. Have them question the accusation in a way that fits with our character. Now, by the way, if it isn't, if you're doing something, if you've done something in the past, it's a better way to look at it. If you've done something in the past that you regret, and they go, well, yeah, the other day or the last week or last month or last year you did that, you go, okay, well, that makes sense. I've made some changes in how I think about decisions in life and myself since then. So I tell you what I would encourage you to do is to kind of pay attention to who I am from this point on. See if indeed I'm still that kind of person, because I've looked at that and made some decisions that that's really not the best of who I am, and I'm going to take more responsibility for doing that differently in the future. In other words, if we've been a certain way that gives people a sense of this is a problem, we want to let them know the kind of changes we've made and how we're taking 100% responsibility for that. But frankly, that's a relatively small situation. Normally, when we're being accused of something, it's incongruent with who we are. And so we've got to make that distinction between defending and being defensive, and we've got to be willing to engage them in a way where we're coming from this clear, confident, creative, curious part of who we are. Think of yourself as kind of a ninja warrior. You're centered and you're focused, and if they throw a punch, you don't throw a punch back. You kind of step aside. Well, tell me more about that. So you got to be willing to be very flexible, be very centered, so that you're taking their accusation not as some sort of indication of something you need to defend, but something you want to get curious about to see where the accusation is coming from. This is all part of my philosophy, life from the top of the mind. It's the ability to kind of deal with life from this clear, confident, creative, compassionate part of who we are, this upper 80% of the brain, where we're making decisions based on a very purposeful process. This is what I do. I get to go around the world teaching people how to access this upper 80% of the brain, how to stay there, especially in challenging situations, and how to deal with other people so that they shift from their resistant brain to their receptive brain. If this is something you'd like me to come and talk to your organization about, all you got to do is go to my website, BillCrawfordPh.com, hit the contact button, let me know what you're interested in. Love to talk with you about that. If you're liking these videos, please hit the like button. You know how LinkedIn and Pinterest and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter all love it when you like it. I try to post one of these every week, and if you'd like to receive one of these videos every week, by the way, all you got to do is go to my website, hit the subscribe button, put your name and email address in. You'll receive one of these videos every week, along with a quote, one of my favorite quotes, and a couple of paragraphs about how to apply that quote to life. My goal is to bring you new information to help you create the life you want, be able to access this clear, confident, creative part of who you are, and bring that to all aspects of life. So, until next time, here's to you. Bring in more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.